I had just written the script to this video the day that I heard the news that Allie Hazelwood had been run off of Instagram for saying that PETA from the Hunger Games was useless. And I thought, I probably shouldn't make this video. The last thing I should do is agitate the reader community. Reader girls, I'm officially terrified of you. But then I thought, well, you know what? The last thing that I would have ever predicted is that PETA was that hot of a topic. With all the opinions, all the hot takes on the internet that are expressed every day, I could very easily blunder into complaining about the wrong character. But with that said, I do want to note that I came up with this video idea just as like a good-natured, curmudgeonly topic to talk about. If you've been a long-time viewer of this channel, you'll know that one thing I always try to say before I complain about anything or sound like I'm giving any kind of judgment or even advice is life is way too short and way too stressful for me to want to sound like I'm telling anybody what to do with their lives or what to buy or what choices to make or what hobbies to have, what books to read, any of that. This video is just what I have observed and how I feel about what I have observed. But if what's bringing you joy in this stressful world right now, even if it's buying 5 different copies of the same book in different editions and having them all, a shelf that's just all those, go ahead and do it. I do not want you to feel bad about anything that I'm going to say. I got on BookTok recently for pretty much the first time in my life. I've been avoiding it, and finally I thought, okay, I should probably try to learn how to market on BookTok. And one of the things I did while there is I tried to get the algorithm to show me books that would actually appeal to me and not just like the same like popular on BookTok titles as far as what I was getting in my feed. And like, I just could not get the algorithm to stop showing me like videos about ACOTAR and Fourth Wing. It's just, I guess that's just what BookTok is, unless you want to go in a completely different direction. Like, I don't know what I need to do. Maybe that's just how BookTok is, but it's all that it wanted to show me. And as I'm flipping through these videos, I started to notice that like all the shelves behind people look the same, like super the same, to where I would start to just kind of predict like exactly the shelf that I'm going to see. Of course, a lot of us have the IKEA Billy, and no wonder, because it is the most affordable bookshelf that will actually support the weight of your books that I'm aware of, and it's available in many different countries. IKEA is not a sponsor of this video, but we do love our Billy bookshelf. And their bookshelves do not look like my bookshelves. My bookshelves are giving chaos energy. For one thing, I've been trying to get rid of some stuff, and I keep moving things around in a very haphazard fashion. But even on the best of days, my bookshelves have always just looked like a chaos used bookstore. And I can appreciate people who have a more organized and attractive bookshelf than I do, whether it's getting some nice matching additions or trying to get a shelf that all looks very like old leather bound, whether it's color coding your shelf, whatever you want to do to look more attractive and organized. There is something appealing about like that really aesthetic library. But on the other hand, I do love just that messy used bookstore energy with all types of different books, maybe in some loose organizational system so that you can find the book. So the shelves on BookTok, they always have A Court of Thorns and Roses, Fourth Wing, and maybe also Lord of the Rings, because we contain multitudes. But these are not just your run-of-the-mill ACOTARs and loaders. These are beautiful special edition hardcovers, maybe multiple copies. I'm not sure what even happens if you show up on BookTok with like a bunch of ex-library copies or like wrinkled mass market paperbacks with lines all over them. Are you insta-banned from BookTok? What happens? And what if you have this dreaded thing? The ancient thrift book sticker that will not come off no matter what you do. I can only assume that the BookTok girls would never dare. And you know, there's some books that maybe aren't as necessary, but pop up a lot. You've got your Brandon Sandersons, your Babel. You got your Divine Rivals. And then you got a whole bunch of sprayed edge books that are edge out. So I don't even know what those are, but you got a lot of them and probably like beautifully color coordinated. And I've been mostly talking about fantasy, but there's also always the shelf of like the rom-coms, color-coded, candy-colored rom-coms. So after seeing so many of these shelves, I have nothing against each individual shelf. There's so many reasons that you might want to have an attractive shelf. I mean, for one thing, obviously, these are very popular books. Some of the popular ones I liked myself, and I'm glad that reading is booming, and a lot of people are probably just kind of getting into a reading era or getting back into reading maybe after a while, and so you have a lot of newer, hotter releases. You don't have a lot of older books, or maybe you're just really young. This is the first time you've had like real job spending money and you're spending it all on beautiful books. Far be it for me to complain about that. There are certainly far worse things you could be spending your money on than beautiful books. And of course there is a long history of somewhat predictable and uniform, but also very attractive shelves. If you go back to like late 19th and early 20th century books, you'd often have like those sets of kind of the books that everybody has to have, and they'd be leather bound, and then you'd have like your beautiful late 19th century books that would have the gold edges and those beautiful covers that were very like ornate. People have always enjoyed both the kind of books that everybody's reading and the attractive book. And we're just kind of seeing a return to that in a lot of ways. Whereas when I was younger, a lot of things were just your mass market paperback that was not really meant to be kept or taken care of or treasured in any way. And I have a certain fondness for those books, but admittedly they are very, very cheaply made. And that's all well and good if you don't really plan to keep the book. But if you do want to keep a book, it's kind of aggravating when you have a beaten up mass market paperback and that's like all that was available or all that you can find. So I don't necessarily hate all these trends to have these beautiful books return to the public consciousness. And there's been a lot of videos made about like the darker side of this, the consumerism of BookTok, has the spectacle of reading become more important than the reading itself? Do the kids even know how to read? Are they just pretending to read for social media? So I don't want to get into all that. This is not what I made this video for. There is just this little part of me that would love to see more chaos shelves on BookTok. I love walking into someone's house and they have bookshelves, or even just one bookshelf. I love to be the voyeur of the bookshelf and see like that little window into their soul. What kind of books are important to them? What did they want to keep? What nonfiction do they feel they need to have around? And when I look at somebody's shelf, I really love to be surprised. I love it when they have all types of different books. It's great when you walk into somebody's house and you look at their shelf and they've got their well-worn, beloved, mass-market copies of Lord of the Rings, and then they also have a fantasy novel you've never heard of, and they also have some classics, and there are all kinds of different editions they've acquired over their lives. They have a book left over from childhood. Then they have some random nonfiction. They have some graphic novels. If, like, the more varied your bookshelf, the better to me. But also, it's cool when you go into someone's house and they're kind of really focused on certain niches. They have a lot of photography books. Those are fun to look through. And then they also have like very carefully curated literary novels. That gives you a certain type of person, maybe a little pretentious, but I'm okay with that. Or, you know, you get the nerd shelf, lots of comics, lots of fantasy and sci-fi, or somebody's got a great collection of cookbooks. Like, basically, I get it why people want their shelf on BookTok to kind of say, hey, I'm talking about the specific genre, and look, I own all the, I don't know why I keep gesturing back to my shelves that are not this at all, but I own all the key books of what I'm talking about. It kind of establishes a certain kind of expertise. Disheveled editing Lydia here to comment on something I thought about after I shot this video, which is like, you know, a lot of times certain groups will have like a uniform they wear to signify like this is the kind of music I like, or this is the kind of stuff I'm into. So maybe in the modern era, now that we're doing a lot of our interacting through social media and you can actually show off a shelf, perhaps the shelf is now kind of a fashion code. And maybe if all of the different book genre people were meeting in person instead and they could not show off their shelves, maybe they would develop like more of a fashion language. So perhaps in this way, the shelf is just a way of conforming to a certain group and conveying in very quickly what group you're a member of. That probably is true. And, well, I never fit in anywhere, so. But it still delights me utterly when I see a surprise back there in people's shelves. And there's also the part of me that's like, how are you all affording this stuff? Now, I know that I might seem a little hypocritical saying this because I have a bunch of manga behind me and manga is very expensive now, but at the time I bought all the manga, it was not expensive. I got it all at used bookstores for like nothing. And I can't think of any time where you've been able to get all these nice hardcover special edition newly released books for that cheap, but I don't know. Maybe they're like at Remainders store somewhere. Maybe you have a really awesome used bookstore. I don't like to assume, but I do know that if I was a younger person wanting to get involved in the BookTok community, which I could totally see myself doing as a teenager if it had existed, I would feel like, I can't even be here because I don't have like a nice shelf. And that is not anybody's problem. You don't have to like cheapen your bookshelf to appease teenagers. I would encounter this very attitude sometimes in like the manga collecting community where you would have teenagers or like early 20-somethings being like jealous, like, how do you guys afford all this manga, when people would post pictures of their shelves, and I would always be the person getting on there like, I'm 40. I'm a grown-up woman with a lot of manga. Like, you 18-year-old collector might not be thinking of the fact that manga and anime has been popular long enough that some of us have had like real jobs and have been able to buy manga for like 20 years. So that's why we have so much. I know if I was a teenager, I would probably be thinking the same thing, getting all jealous and totally forgetting that some of these people are like old enough to be my parents. What was I talking about? So yeah, I'm not saying that if you are prospering and what you want to spend your money on are nice books that you need to feel bad about it because that like college kids maybe can't spend that much money on books. But it is just kind of like the sad side effect of social media right now that often the people who have the most ability to like do hauls and have the most aesthetic shelves and rooms and such are often kind of correlates with who's the most successful. And if you're kind of young and trying to make it, you start to feel really depressed and like maybe you need to like go into credit card debt to keep up with this so that you can like build your presence, which is a worrying side effect to me of the whole thing that I don't really know what to do about it, but it is something I think about whenever I see a shelf that just looks expensive. So all I'm saying is that if you are someone on BookTok who has a shelf that has a bunch of like random books or used books, older editions, you are obviously someone who gets books at the thrift store and the library sale and the used bookstores. You've got these thrift book stickers that you can't get off. Well, I see you, and you're always the people that I follow when you come up on my feed. Like if I see an unusual shelf, it's like insta follow for me. Whereas if I see kind of the same old shelf, I'm usually more like, scroll on. So I guess actually this is kind of a love letter for people who have the unusual shelves. There is an audience for you. And that audience might just be me, but I'm out there. I'm looking for some weird shelves to gawk at. So you might not have as big of an audience as the person with the most aesthetic, trendy shelf, but get out there anyway. And thus convenes the first meeting of the Chaos Shelf Appreciation Society. My name is Lydia Foxglove, and I am a fantasy author. If you are a fellow appreciator of the Chaos Shelf, let me know in the comments. And if you'd like more from me, I have a Patreon, a Substack, and YouTube memberships that I'll get 2 bonus videos a month voted on by you guys. And on this channel, I talk about the creative life in general and writing in particular, the emotional, practical, financial side. And sometimes I just talk about like random topics like this. So if that sounds good to you, remember to click the subscribe button. Thank you so much to all my Patreons and members. And if you would like to read any of my books, there's a link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye! I don't know what you want exactly.